Good evening. It's D-Day for hundreds of millions of Americans who today have the solemn duty of deciding their country's future, and much of the world are watching you good guys as you do the right thing across in the US.
All right, without losing sight of back here at home, we are still at the heart of scandals. Details of how hundreds of millions of shillings was shipped in sacks, and just who was the final beneficiary of this scam is what the country is waiting for.
Indeed, good evening, everyone. Welcome to your home of absolute truth, nothing but the whole truth. This is News Sources. The highlights at this hour.
Alafu mnatuambia mnatembea hapo kuongea Kiingereza mingi ati unajua sasa imekuwa imeenda ikarudi. Hiyo ni maneno gani hiyo? Wacheni upuzi bana. Tuambieni ukweli.
Kianza reli anasema ufisadi. Kwa sababu hataki. Reli ameimba ufisadi, reli ndio hiyo imeingia Nairobi.
She's being protected by a totally rigged system. I've been talking about the rigged system.
Okay to insult people. It's not okay. And look at what he does. He calls women ugly.
Welcome to the program, everyone. It is both local and American politics. Now, after huffing and puffing, the government is now shouting to the mountaintops that taxpayers' monies in the region of billions was lost in the National Youth Service scandal. Now, the state has spent 3 years putting up walls and defenses against every whistleblower and Kenyan who suggested NYS was a scam. But still, Mandarins in Jubilee are not admitting guilt. They are all pointing fingers to some supposed looters.
Saloon aende arejista kampuni 20 siku moja, aende apatiwe kandarasi, alipwe milioni karibu inafika bilioni. Yeye mwenyewe anasema mimi nilikuwa napepa pesa hii mamilioni kwa gunia kama viazi. Really? Alafu mnatuambia mnatembea hapo kuongea Kiingereza mingi ati unajua sasa imekuwa imeenda ikarudi. Hiyo ni maneno gani hiyo? Wacheni upuzi bana. Tuambieni ukweli.
Absolutely, that's where we start news from. Dennis Onsarigo, co-host of the program. Karibu to the program, Nyambenga Gisesa and Ibrahim Moruko.
Thanks.
Gentlemen, this is where we are. NYS is finally unfolding. All right, we are getting to the real thing, the real matter of the stuff. That finally we are past that money has been lost, but exactly who took the money? Nyambenga.
You see, I watched the interview for Anne Waiguru, the former cabinet secretary, and I think she took almost 10 hours during the interview, and it was the longest and one of the most detailed. And up to that time, I'd been thinking that Anne Waiguru was only big thief in this government, but just from a talk, from a body language, I discovered that it's someone more superior than the cabinet secretary I used to know was the most powerful. And I've been asking myself, who is this person? And I think now the chickens are coming home to roast.
Dennis, we tried last week to talk to the PSC chair and asked exactly what are you driving at? What is it that you're looking for in this scam? And remember I asked him, it appears these people are just, chasing shadows.
So this is a circus of sorts, if you ask me, because this story has been there for the last 2 or 3 years now, and government has denied. State House denied this. The highest office in the land denied that there was no attempt of stealing this money, and they saved taxpayers millions and millions of shillings because someone stole someone's passport, but they nabbed this thing in the bud. But where we are now, you have a government that is eating its own. It's like a dog eating its own puppies. So you have a government that is trying to say, catch me before I catch you. That's where we are. Ruko.
Yeah, maybe I agree with you that the conflict is now internal. It's now consuming the actors within itself. After so much denial, now the reality is downing. One, I think, but the truth be said, we are here because of the one name called Farouk. Once it was mentioned, I think it triggered. It has had the deputy president eat all the words around this scandal. You remember him saying, Raila Odinga was jealous, a jealous man. If there is an issue with Waiguru, let him confront me or the President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, the war has been brought at his doorstep and he has to fight back. So it's within.
Smart. One thing that I can remember since this NYS scandal came out, and it's a fact that NYS first came to the public because of Waiguru. And I remember that time, the president saying that Waiguru is not going anywhere. I remember Duale saying Waiguru is not going anywhere. I remember Murkomen, senator, saying Waiguru is not going anywhere. I remember Justin Muturi, even the speaker was supposed to, to maintain a neutral position in parliament, saying the same thing. Every person in Jubilee, they believe that Anne Waiguru, she's not going anywhere. And then they said that money has not been lost.
So what's changed?
In the last 2 weeks, it's now, sometimes I think Anne Waiguru has been pushed into a corner. And now she comes very open and saying, there's a cartel, 781 million shillings was transacted. Someone signed within a day, 781
But her story has been consistent, Janice, from the top when she came and said, I'm a whistleblower, there's been an IFMIS, something has happened in the IFMIS system, and she's been very consistent. So,
smart, no. I mean, Waiguru's story has been very convincing. She's not been very consistent.
Very convincing.
Yes, she's been very convincing because she said from day one, I stopped theft before it happened. And then we later came to discover that theft did happen. And then she went ahead and suspended people. She went ahead from being a whistleblower to a suspect, now to a star witness. I mean, it's a circus of sorts. And the fact that the deputy president is drawing her into this war and saying we need to crucify you before you get to my own personal assistant, as it were smart, then I don't know where we head.
But the big thing is, how did the journalists report Anne Waiguru? Did we call her a thief too early? Did we give her the right of response that she required? And up to, I think, last week.
Is it about Anne Waiguru, or is it about the people who advised her at that time? Because there was sort of this, it was standoff. It was an adversarial relationship. Yeah, it was, I can't remember Anne Waiguru between 2014 and 2015 sitting in TV interviews and explaining herself. So is it just the media's fault, or is it partly her fault?
I think I'll blame the media because I don't think that we gave her enough time to explain herself. We gave her adequate time. We didn't spend a lot of time interrogating the issues that she was raising. And I watched on that day, it's almost, remember when Hillary Clinton, secretary for the U.S. secretary, the former U.S. secretary of state was being interviewed. They took about 11 hours. And Anne Waiguru's interview took almost 10 hours. And I remember that before that, we'd never given her such kind of space. Even the time she had appeared on Citizen TV, when she was being interviewed by Mohammed, she just looked straight like a suspect when she was on the set.
Right?
But I'm having a problem here. Does it mean that after 10 hours of grilling, then she's innocent or something?
We are not saying that she's innocent. The thing we are saying, I'm not saying that she's innocent.
Yes.
But the thing that I'm saying is that we treated her as a suspect from the start.
And she is. She remains so, as long as it's still a mystery.
I don't understand where this convincing came from for you to suddenly turn around and say,
yeah.
Where is this coming from?
Because one question she didn't answer during the 10-hour or so grilling was the role of one Adan Harake, the person she designated outside the law to be the AIA holder.
That's another misreporting
she did not
by a journalist. Because she didn't, yes, what you have just said, there were two IA holders at that time. There was
Hold on to your issues of IA holder. The biggest defender of NYS was none other than Deputy President William Ruto, who in the height of the opposition leader Raila Odinga's consistent questioning of NYS told off the former premier, branding him the Lord of Poverty. Ruto and Jubilee then swore corruption allegations being leveled against them was an act of conspiracy by the opposition leader, a man they described as being jealousy of the good works of the government. Surprise, surprise. Here is the deputy president then in June 2015 and the deputy president now November 2016. Let's listen in.
Watu wawache makelele. Kazi ya kuajiri wafanyikazi wa serikali, kutransfer, kufanya nani atafanya kazi wapi, ni kazi ya public service na rais na mimi. Kama iko maneno hiyo mtuulize sisi, wacha kwenda kugombanisha watu wengine wadogo huko chini. Pesa ya umma kama imepotea, tuseme pesa ya umma imepotea. Na wale ambao wanahusika wawajibike. Tunaelewana ama tuelewani? Si ndio namna hiyo? That's what we want.
And we are not going to take nonsense from anybody. We will not agree. We are going to be very firm. You know, the masterminds cannot be walking around doing catwalk on us when public money has been lost, giving us long lectures on influencing investigation, I don't know, this and that. No.
That is the Deputy President there. Nyambega, have we been taking nonsense from the Deputy President and have we been catwalking?
It's not just the Deputy President. We are used to this kind of conmanship in politics. You remember like a few years ago, you say that Kalonzo was part of the KANU, you know, the KANU regime. But suddenly, once he has shared with Raila, it becomes a reformer. We've been used to this kind of conmanship in our politics for quite a long time. But what I'm wondering for Deputy Ruto is just between a period of about 1 year, and it's just changed what he's talking, it's just changed. Is even emotionless. Now you see that he appears to know that money has been stolen. Yet a few months ago, he was saying that no cash has been stolen.
Smart. And this leaves us again with the former CS Waiguru. This is one person who has worked very closely with the Deputy President before in the same government. I mean, he came out defending her. Now this man has thrown this woman under the bus. In fact, saying she's been catwalking. Sexist, to say the least.
I'm not sure about working very closely. I think we've always, had this friction between the office of the Deputy President and a very powerful office that was devolution, and the kind of events and the kind of power that she wielded. Having said that, I think there's something that we cannot get our hands into. That how much money was exactly lost in NYS, and I think if we answer that question, we're able to know the difference and the fight between the office of the Deputy President and former devolution CS.
Is it about money? Is this fighting about money?
And it's about money. Follow the money, you get your story. All right. Nelson Gidinji said that about 5 billion shillings might have been lost at the NYS. PS Mangeti says he can't even put a figure on it. All right. Anne Waiguru said it's about 791 million shillings, and the rest, we can't know. So we have different figures. So who stole what? It's possible that we are following just one track of the money that was lost. So someone is happy to say that money was stolen by so and so.
Oruko, when I spoke to a former NYS senior accountant sometime last year, this man said they had a budget of 19 billion shillings. By the time we had lost this 791 and 1.45 billion shillings, they had already spent 11 billion shillings. Is this fight between the Deputy President and the former CS about making sure we don't get to the bottom of this issue?
I think that is true. And I will just look at the demeanor of the Deputy President. He's totally unbelievable. I don't even believe him. He now looks to be very annoyed, and is actually cheating himself that he can be annoyed. You don't fight corruption by getting annoyed or emotional in public. That's not his work, by the way. So that is the truth. The reason why they're fighting is that the reality is now just knocking at the door. We are now just almost there, because now it is internal, Raila is not there, and what is happening is that everybody has his finger on the trigger. We don't know whether it's who will pull the first one to say now, actually, it was 10 billion and so and so.
You see, what I liked about what Waiguru said, and people keep on blaming her that there's no way you lose over 1 billion shillings in the ministry and someone could not know. We have to understand that this Ministry of Interior is about almost 7 ministries that were crashed. Devolution ministry. It's about 7 ministries that were crashed into one. And she made a very important point. She said that in those 3 years before this scandal was discovered, we had already been given and spent over 300 billion shillings, not the 19 billion that you said. And we only managed to discover 781 shillings. Dennis, if I give you 300 shillings today and you lose 19 or 20 shillings, it's not easy to discover such kind of...
Mbega, I'll pull you back again to what you said earlier, that maybe we branded Anne Waiguru a suspect way before she actually became one. This is a minister. When I was listening to her, again, her demeanor, she spoke like a person who was not in charge of this ministry.
And then it's that question will have to be answered in the next one. And let's shuffle corruption right now, that's another story. Now, the Senate Committee on Health today received submissions from Health CS Cleopas Mailu and his PS Nicholas Muraguri. Mailu, who was first to be grilled, expressed his shock. He says when he learned that the internal auditor posted to his ministry barely 2 months was being transferred at the request of PS Muraguri. The committee learned that the internal auditor on being posted on the ministry in April asked questions that led to Waiguru immediately to seek ouster. On his part, Waiguru claims he only requested for a senior auditor and not replacement of the internal auditor. Let's listen in.
This audit report came 6 months into my being in the Ministry of Health, and I have since stated clearly this was a routine process of the internal audit, and I believe for that year, normally audits have a schedule of what they do and what they do during the closure of the year. And therefore, I want members of this committee to know this audit was not specifically commissioned by my office or self to inform myself. It's a routine process, and I'll answer the question of the Honorable Senator Beth Mugo, why did he bring it up to me? So that position, that is very important to clarify.
All right, Dennis, so we're finally getting context. We are zeroing down to the exact scenario that led to us having this report. So there is an auditor who asked questions a month or so after he got into office, and the PS, Waiguru, asked Treasury to immediately transfer this, the auditor, because for some reason. Finally, we're getting somewhere.
Smart, yes, indeed. I mean, we're covering ground. This is a story that has gotten us in big trouble as media in this country. We've got a serious backlash as a result of this when the government keeps on throwing this line to us that this was an interim report. So if it was interim and money was lost, it's still interim. We'll get a final report.
Which they've said they do on Friday.
Exactly. They have pushed it again. They've said the National Treasury is the one that is conducting this investigation. So they cannot have this report by the end of this week.
Yes.
They'll do it when National Treasury does it. I mean, Nyambega, your thoughts on this?
First, I'd love to appreciate the good work which was done by the reporter who broke out the story, Stella Murumba, and of course the media, was that national media, which was the first to come out with this story. And the thing I find so annoying with this government is that Waiguru first, he threatens a journalist and he just apologizes. Nothing happens to him. There's no even reprimand from his seniors. It's so shocking. And the next thing is that when you look at this health scandal, of course you might say that money has been lost or it has not been lost, but there are a lot of impropriety that have been involved, including the tenders that were given to the president's cousin.
And we're getting to those questions next. But let's bring in Roslyn Obala, who's at the US, covering this election, but has been talking about this health and covering this health story for quite a while. Roslyn, what are we missing here? We've had the discussions, and at the moment, the discussion surrounds around how we got this leak and how the auditor who's in charge and asked these questions originally was asked to, or being asked to transfer. Thoughts, Roslyn?
Hi, Smart. Yes, it's good to report from here. We are very busy, as you can see. We are covering the elections. This is a very busy day for us. But just to go back home on the issue of the health money, what the ministry is trying to tell us is just trying to push it back to the National Treasury, because the National Treasury is just a ministry to disperse that money. And this is not the first time we are discussing the issue of the Ministry of Health in regards to money going to counties and going to the hospitals. This is a debate that started in 2013. And the Senate Health Committee and the Finance Committee have been pushing for this money to go directly to the counties. And I remember the ministry came out so strongly. They even held stakeholder meetings with the MPs, especially the Health Committee of the National Assembly, to just have this money remain with the Ministry of Health. So what exactly we don't understand is that now when the money is coming out, that there is some money that has been lost, then they're telling us that the Ministry of National Treasury is supposed to prop this money. I have been following this, and if you remember last Thursday, I shared my views, how the PS took up on me when I was asking about the money, the free maternity, and he was talking about this is not free lunch, and he was saying that the money so far, by then the governors were talking about 5.3 billion that was with the ministry. But he said so far what he knew was 4-point-something billion, which I think it's the money that is being factored here. But even at that point, he said there is no money that they release without actual requests from the counties.
Okay, Roslyn, I'll come back to you when you're discussing the US. You have enough there, but let's get down to the real question of we passed the move of money was lost. The government now says that no money absolutely was lost in this health scandal. It's just a creation of the press and the creation of the media.
No, I think we go back to what we discussed last time. And my position remains that auditing is a science. An auditor does not just imagine things. That the document is given, scrutinizes them, then makes a report. And that's what happened. So who is this telling us that money was not lost? The auditor has a report that says the questions as related to the procurement of this kind of thing have not been
Interim
answered.
report, they say.
Nothing called an interim. Well, that one we dismissed. And it is a political statement, again, by the Deputy President. I think he started all this. That is called an interim, I don't know.
For good reasons.
Yeah,
it's interim.
Yeah, part of the, but they are not supposed to tell us a question of interim report.
There's something about interim, about that report. The key question around the health ministry and its dealings lie in the dozens of containers that they bought by the ministry at a cost of 10 million shillings each. The government claims it purchased these containers on behalf of the counties and some sort of an emergency procedure. Worth noting, though, the containers are not stocked with medicine and they have been lying at the port for a record 9 months now. Gentlemen, I mean, these are containers, 20, 30-foot containers. They were purchased, according to the Ministry of Health, as an emergency. These containers have been lying there. They are not equipped with medicine, as I read through that intro there. Yambega, where does this leave us?
The first thing that we need to look at is the amount of money which was spent. I hear about 891 million shillings. And this amount was paid less than 2 weeks after these containers were supposedly procured. And a very interesting thing is also that Newsplex did, is that they did an evaluation of how much money the facilities that were supposed to be in the containers costed. And I came to discover it was less than 1.5 million shillings, because an empty container like that one is about 250,000 shillings.
Exactly.
Or even free. If you're an importer, they get these things for free.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, how comes we continue allowing this kind of graft and corruption, yet we go on, we organize events from State House, we organize events and say that we seriously fighting corruption.
Smart, how do we, I mean, I saw one of the containers and a section of it was a toilet, okay, without an outlet. And we're procuring this thing at 10 million shillings. It's staggering.
Dennis, it's difficult to talk about containers. First, because they've been at this, lying at the port for 9 months. One, the government uses that excuse that, the government can in fact go ahead and procure these things, that it's not a preserve of KEMSA or the counties. So yes, through complementarity, the national government can in fact go and procure. But here's the key question that you're talking about, and what you forget is these containers, no one in the counties asked for them. All right? No one asked for these containers. The other containers that, the Beyond Zero have been lying waste in the counties because they don't have doctors. You need medicine. You need people to man these things. So who asked for these things? And that is the question. Before you get in that, container, the 300,000 container that we bought at 10 million, who asked for them?
I mean, Oruko, is it still... This is an interim report again. I mean,
forget about it.
The president will tell you this is an interim report. We asked for it, we got it, we asked for questions, we're waiting for answers. I mean, who are we to ask about these containers that have been lying at the NYS yard for the last 9 months? Who are we as media?
Of course, that's our role, first of all, and I'm sure you're also a taxpayer, but that's not even important. The issue is that you are the first journalist to tell me that you saw the container. The journalist I've talked to in Mombasa has told me they were just shown these things from the outside. They were not allowed to open them and see what the contents of these kind of things. And he even told me that, for example, if you're a regular importer, these things are free. You can just begin for free, not even 100,000.
What demand? 10 million shillings.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's a theft, of course.
Let's build it up, and all these corruption allegations are not sitting well with His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, who on Friday decided to lash out at his key challenger, Raila Odinga. Uhuru says he has had it with Mr. Odinga, who he says thrives on dividing the country along ethnic lines.
Understand a man and his thinking. Backwardness. pettiness. Pettiness. Nia yake akifikiria ati akisema nimekuja kutetea watu ya Murang'a, ati ndio apate sympathy, ati ndio watu wa Murang'a ati wasijitokeze kupiga kura ati kwa sababu project ime.
Gentlemen, what's that to say?
That's too low, by the way. It's too low for the president. And for me, what I learned from that event is that that anger shows that his government is in trouble.
What kind of trouble? What kind of trouble?
Yeah, in terms of re-election chances. Because that does not sound as the feelings of a man who is confident about an impending election. It's trouble. So you have to quarrel. Emotional.
I almost thought it was Donald Trump speaking, to be honest. And I wondered, just this year, this is the second time the president is doing this. He did it during William Olintimama's funeral, and this is the second time. Sometimes leadership, we need a person who's calm and reserved in the way in which he's replying to his opponents. And I find this so much. I don't know what's happening to our president. I don't know that it's corruption has stressed him this much. I honestly don't understand.
To be fair, this is candidate Uhuru Kenyatta speaking. Dennis, this is not His Excellency the President.
But there's no difference.
Smart, you can't quickly walk away from the presidency and then put on this hat of being a candidate.
10 months.
No, wait, Smart. This is the President of the Republic of Kenya. This is the unifying factor in this country. Okay, what I saw on TV that day, and it's a big letdown from media industry in this country, that they should have taken time to ask, what is wrong with the president? Is this man stressed? Has he been let down? Has he let himself down? Those are the questions I expected editorialized in our mainstream media in this country. But from the cool, down-to-earth president, and then you see this, something must be wrong somewhere. Either people are letting him down, or he's deliberately letting himself down. I mean, that's what I got. And I feel for him. I mean, he's president. He carries the aspirations and the pain of this country on his shoulders every single night. And you guys in the media dare drag his sister, his cousin to corruption scandals. He can be a stressed man. Nyambega.
When the president says that one Raila Amolo Odinga raised the issues of Murang'a and this corruption so that he can get sympathy votes, does it also mean that these outbursts against the opposition leader are there to also give him sympathy votes? You see, and if you look at the 2013 elections, you'll discover that in Murang'a County, the president scored, I think, 99.9% of the votes.
There's no chance.
Yes, there are no chances for Raila to win. But anyway, this is pure propaganda. Issues on the table, you ignore them, then you go for the person and the character. That's what is called propaganda. There's nothing else. So a president in office for years, but now he thinks propaganda is the safe escape for his 4-year reign. And it was very bad for the president because legitimate questions are being raised around this project. And if there's nothing wrong, I think in my view, it's just to explain to them. Explain to them. If they're right, then explain to them.
Smart must have something to say before we take a break. Smart.
I think, to be the devil's advocate, I think from where the president sits, and they said it on several accounts, that this issue of corruption is being used to play politics. You cannot deny that Code is gaining something out of, issues of corruption. You cannot deny that. So the president is right.
But is there a scandal that has been investigated after Raila said about the scandal? Actually, other than NYS, none, because that's what you expect.
We must take a break at this point. But before we do, we're asking you tonight, should William Ruto's personal assistant, Farouk Kibet, appear before the Public Accounts Committee over the NYS scandal? Should William Ruto's personal assistant, Farouk Kibet, appear before the Public Accounts Committee over the National Youth Service scandal? Taking a short break. Don't you go far away, because we're talking matters siasa in the United States of America. Stay here.